And you can hear me also. Yeah, I can see some yeses. Hope you guys can also see the screen that's shared. Give me some yeses for the screens that's shared with you. Okay, awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, okay, let's get started without waiting any further. We've already 4 minutes into it. Yeah, we've got tons of exciting things to do. So, without taking a lot of time, uh, oh, sh- folks want me to share my screen again? Okay, let me try that. Mm, yeah, I'm sharing the screen again. Hope that's visible. Give me some yeses for that. Okay, cool. Awesome. Good. So first of all, thank you. Thank you for joining. Also, thank you for submitting the assignment. I see a lot of folks who've not done the assignment and have not come. So that's okay. We wanted folks who are only serious to be joining, and that's why we were so stringent on folks doing the assignment. That assignment wouldn't folks who've done you all have done this, so you know that it doesn't takes a lot of time. So again, just thank you for joining. I'll quickly tell you what we are going to do today. We're gonna start with talking a little bit about CSS units. Then we'll go on and talk a bit about colors and typography. And then what we'll do is we'll actually I have a template there, and that template is unstyled template. And what we are going to do in the second half of this class is that we are going to actually style that live. We'll live code that, and so let me just quickly show you. So this is the template. Let me also show you in full screen. Okay. So this is a developer template. This is purely unstyled. Just layouts are done, and this is what you see on the screen, right? Right, a typical sort of bio, but it's unstyled, right? Now you gotta add some CSS magic, and then what we're going to see here is this output. Okay, this is what we're going to do live in the class. Excited? I hope so. Okay. So also to tell you is this is from this class to keep you focused and to keep you attentive. This is what is going to be your assignment today. So basically, this unstyled template, you all are going to get this, and from what tricks and tips and what all you've learned in the class, you're going to add use this as a blank canvas and take your brush, take your colors, and put colors to this and paint it on the screen. Right, this is going to be your assignment. So hopefully you'll be focused till the end. Right. There'll be a few things that I'll be talking. There'll be a few things that I'll be brushing over quickly because I understand most of you might know it. There'll be some tricks and tips and gotchas that I'll be talking in between. So please make sure that you're focused throughout. Okay. So let me get started without taking more time. So okay, so CSS units, right? So most of you might have seen this PX, right? Pixels. What are pixels? So any screen, any computer screens is made up of dots that are called pixels, right? The browser or the operating system or your hardware actually paint colors into that pixel, and that's what you see in the screen, right? Pixels are the most common unit. They are absolute unit. They are not relative units, right? You say 100 pixels, that means on that particular screen whatever the 100 pixels is there, that gets rendered. As simple as that, right? Most commonly used, most popular units pixel. uh, you might see people talking saying that hey, don't use pixels. No, not probably true. Of course, pixels are absolute, but there's no harm in using pixels. What you need to uh, Also, to tell you something, that there is no right or wrong CSS unit, right? You need to understand what these units are and what are the meaning of these units, and that's how, and understand fundamentally what they do, and that's how you'll understand when to use which unit, right? So there is no black and white that okay, you should use pixels everywhere, you should use percentage everywhere, you should use rems everywhere. You might have heard that rems are good for responsiveness or accessibility. No, no, nothing like that, right? uh, there are things that you can do to make certain units behave certain way, right? But underlying thing is that you need to understand the behavior, and that's how you'll understand when to use which unit. Okay. So let's talk about percentages, right? When do you use percentages? Percentages would typically be used when you would want to, say that okay, x% of something, right? You've seen we've used 100%, 50%. You sometimes give width equal to 50%. What does that actually mean? Okay, so let's say if I say font size equal to 50%, let's say I have put a div. When I say that font size of that div is equal to 50%, what does that actually mean? That means that whatever is the parent's computed font size. Now, why do I say computed font size, right? Because what you need to remember is everything in the end you give, you can give any absolute unit, pixels, rems, ems, ultimately they'll be converted into pixels, right? There are certain steps that are followed, there are certain rules that are followed to do this conversion, and in the end everything gets converted into pixels, right? So percentages, if you say font size equal to 50%, that will be 50% of the parent's computed font size. So let's say parent's font size, we have created a div. So the parent of this div is another div, and the font size is 20 rems, right? So 20 rems is not the computed font size. There'll be some calculation 20 into blah blah blah, which you'll understand over the classes, right? And that will, there will be some pixel value, right? So 50% will be of that 50% of that computed value of the parent's font size. When we talk about lengths, like width, height, margin, paddings, etc., that in percentage, like 50%, 80%, 100%. When you say 100%, that means 100% of the parent's computed width, right? So if the child is 50%, if you say width equal to 50%, that means, parent, if parent is 400 pixel, it will be 50% of that, that is 200 pixel, right? As simple as that. Okay. uh, that's basically, percentages, right? In the end, I'll tell you, when you basically use what, but or let me go through right away, right? When do you use percentages? Percentages are normally used in layouts, right? When you're trying to actually, as you know, percentages would always react to whatever the parent font size or length is there, right? So whenever you want to lay out something, you normally won't use font sizes and all. You would normally use widths and lengths for in terms of percentages. And when you want to lay out them in terms of the parent, or actually when you want to give any value in terms of the or in percentage of the parents, that's when you'll use percentages. Okay. What's ramp? Okay, a lot of you, I'm sure know ramp. Can someone raise hands and tell me what's ramp quickly? I don't want to keep talking to photos. Quickly, someone raise hand. There's 41 of you. What are REMs? I know you know REMs. At least just tell me the definition. This is the definition of REM. Someone, someone,
Actually,
anyone? Please raise hands. Don't unmute without raising hands. Please raise your hands, and then I'll ask you to unmute, and then you can talk. Anyone? Quickly? No, no, no answers on chat. I'm not looking at chat. Yes, Omkar?
I think it's related to the parent.
No, it's not. Anyone else? What are REMs? Anyone? Yes, Alish?
Yeah, so RAM is related with the root elements or the font size of the root element or somewhere.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Alish. Keep your hands down. So basically, when you say RAMs, and you know what, I'm talking a lot of theory right now, and I'm actually not going into example. We'll see all these units in practice when we are coding, right? So just hold on for a second. please make sure that you're focusing on what I'm saying, and you keep a mental model of it, of what we're talking right now, right? So coming back, rems are a relative unit, they're not absolute. Rems are actually always relative to the root font size. Okay, so if the root, what's the root? Root could be HTML or it could be the body, right? So what would rems be? Rems would actually, if your root font size is 16 pixels, which is by default 16 pixels, right? The font size of the root. So if you say anywhere, any div, anything, if you say it's 10 rems, that means 10 into root font size, which is 16, so it will become 160 pixels. Okay, that is important to remember. Rems are one of the very powerful unit, and we use it to do a lot of crazy and helpful stuff. So what is best about rems? It's always relative to the root font size, right? So you can change the root font size, and that ways you can actually, so let's say you change the root font size from 16 to 24, and you've used rems everywhere, automatically everything will change based on that, right? A word of caution here, although, that you should not change the root font size explicitly, right? Because if you do change that, you're not taking into account the user preferences, right? A browser always expect that the default font size is 16 pixel. If you actually want your fonts to be a little larger, a little smaller, you should actually use percentages. So if the user increases the font size, right, when it's in percentages, it will automatically increase, right? So if you explicitly go and say 18 pixel, if the user increases the font size, it will not increase, right? And if you go and say font size is equal to 120%, right, so then it becomes 120% of the default 16 pixels, right? So please remember that don't explicitly go and change your root font size. That doesn't adhere to accessibility. Okay, what are m's? Okay, m's are actually, the m's are also relative. And whenever you talk about m's, you talk about the parent's font size. So whenever you say something, let's say font size of my div is equal to 2 em, that means it is 2 into whatever is parent's computed font size. So parent's computed font size maybe 16, 24, whatever you've given to the parent, and that becomes 2 into that, right? Because you've given 2m. Now when do you use that? When do you use m's? M's, normally you would use somewhere in forms. Mostly you'll see forms and stuff. So basically, whenever you want a component to be styled, or to change behavior based on the container, you can use m's, right? And a lot of times that's the reason where you see a lot of libraries or form libraries, they'll see, inside the form you see padding and font size and line height, etc. They'll be given in m's, right? Of course, you cannot give line height in m's. Line height is just a number, but letter spacing and stuff like that, you can give it in m's, and you would see that forms use them. If you ask me personally, m's are not something that I use a lot, or you would use a lot in production. No, you should, it's good to know, right? Why it's good to know is because a little of side tracking. uh, it's always good to know a library, bootstrap, material, chakra, and tailwind and stuff like that. But you need to know real css and the definition and meaning of real css when you're if you want to be a front end developer, and if you want to code production applications, right? Because you could use libraries, and there's nothing bad in using libraries. You would always use library, even production apps use libraries, right? But you use libraries for a basic setup, but after that, anything that you do actually requires the knowledge of stuff that is maybe written in a library or you are writing, right? So it's very important for us to understand what the basic is and what is the meaning of everything, right? So we are talking about m's. M's are always related to the parent font size, right? So if you give anything, so basically, there is a gotcha. You need to remember this. When you talk about length, that means padding and margins, right? M's will correspond to parents computed font size. So m's will always be related to font size. But when you talk about font, hold on. So when you talk about fonts, uh, uh, yeah, I actually said vice versa. So basically, when you talk about font, so let's say you said 2 em, as I said earlier, it will be parents computed font size into that, right? But when you talk about length, let's say you give a margin equal to 2 em, right? That will not correspond to the parents font size, or it will be 2 into the current font size, the current computed font size. So here itself, I'll give you the example of the same div that we had. We have given the div font size equal to 2 em. The parent font size is, let's say, 24 pixels. So the font size here becomes 2 into 24 equal to 48 pixels. If I give a margin equal to, let's say, 5 em, okay, so this will not be 5 into 24, the parents, it will be 5 into the current, that is 48. So that is what you need to remember, that whenever you talk about ems, and that's why, it's not very commonly used, because it's little confusing. When you're talking about font size, it will always consider the parent's font size, and when you're talking about length, margin padding, it'll consider the current element's font size, right? So it's something that you need to remember, because there's a lot of confusion that arises because of this. Okay, what is ch unit? Ch is very interesting, very less used, but a very powerful unit actually. So ch is actually, number of characters. So I can quickly show you something. So when I say number of characters, there'll be different fonts, and each fonts have different sizes, right? Letter spacing in each fonts are different. So when I uh, write something in Roboto, let's say my name Vikram in Roboto, that might take 100 pixels, but when I use monospace, Roboto mono for Vikram, that might take a different, because each typeface is different. So ch unit sometimes actually, is useful. How is it useful is, let me try and do something very quickly. So let's hope I'll be able to quickly change this. You guys are able to see the developer console that I've opened also, right? Give me some yeses. Yes, cool. So what I'm going to do here, this is the anchor tag, and let me give max width is equal to 10 ch. Okay, right? So you see here, it didn't change, because there'll be some other properties we can set that. But you know what is it doing? It is setting the width to 10 characters. If I change that to 50, you see this, it keeps changing. So basically, when you say ch, it is equal to the character length of that particular font family that you're using. Okay, when would you use ch? There are sometimes, whenever you don't actually know, or when you want to do something relative to the font, or you actually want the exact calculation based on some text, that is where you sometimes use ch, because ch gives you the exact calculation whatever the font family may be, right? So let's go over ch, vh and vw, very common units. A lot of you might have already used it. Someone, can you just quickly raise hands and tell me what's vh and vw? Very quickly raise hands. Yes, Puneet, unmute yourself. Puneet Arora. Yeah, we can't hear you, Puneet. Okay, I'll move on quickly in the interest of time. Puneet, please mute yourself. We'll probably talk to you in the next question. Mayur, unmute yourself. Tell me what's VHVW?
Sir, it's vertical height and vertical width.
Right. So what does it mean when I say 100 VH? What does this mean?
100 VH means it's take vertical height in 100, but I didn't exact now that the
No
what's the
worries. No
unit
worries.
is.
That's okay. Akshay, anything different?
It's viewport height and viewport width. So 100 image means the 100% of your screen's height, and
Yes,
uh,
exactly.
100.
That's right. Thanks, Akshay. So viewport is actually whatever the size of the screen that you see currently. Thanks, guys. You can keep your hands now, right? So whenever I say 100 VH, that means the entire height of the screen, right? And when I actually, let's say, even if you reduce the height and if it's 100 VH, it's always be 100% of the current viewport height. Similarly for, width, VW, if you, it's the viewport width, right? So even if you reduce the width, right, it will always correspond to the current viewport width. So it's actually really powerful. You'll actually see this in use also in the templates that we're going to see. Let me quickly show you. You have this, right? You have this big 100% full width sections in this website, and you see this is quite common, right? So what is there? Each of these sections have just have 100 VH of height. That's where that's how you use VH. Okay. uh, so that's about the units. We've already reached half of the class, but I want to quickly show you something. So let me do that very quickly. uh, so, I think some of you might have heard this 62.5% that we use with REMS. How many of you heard or seen this 62.5% font size used with REMS? Anyone here? Okay. Only Akshay? Are there more people who have seen this? Okay, Akshay, you've seen this. Can you quickly explain me why do you use this? Do you use this? Why do you use this?
Yeah, it's for like making the root font size to 10 px. So like we can easily calculate the RAM unit from there.
Right, right. Correct. So basically, let's say if font size is equal to 100%, what does this means? 100% means that the default font size of the root, 100 into 16 pixels, it will be 16 pixels, right? If you have to, and now, if you want to give, let's say this padding, if you want to say, give it a 24 pixels, right? And how do you calculate 24 pixels in REMS, right? So you will have to do that division 24 by 16, and that actually makes this calculation and writing all the CSS difficult, right? So what you do is you give the font size as 62.5%. So 10 by 16 is 10 by 16. 10 of 16 is actually 62.5%. So that makes it 10 pixels. So now what happens is whenever you say 2.4 rem, that is 24 pixels. Whenever you say 40 rem, that is 400 pixels. So that helps you in calculation, right? Now, why do people use REMs? Due to this simple media query. If you don't know media query, don't worry about it. It's used for responsiveness, right? Just consider this as a if condition. So what is it saying? That if the media is screen, there could be print media also. So this is a screen media, and max width. Okay, so max width of the viewport is 750 pixel. Then this rule should apply, right? And if it is screen and max width is only 450 pixel, then this CSS rule should apply. That's all. Okay, in a nutshell, this is what it is. Okay, so what happens now? Let me forget about font size. Let me just show you this. So color is equal to red when it is 750 pixels, and color is equal to green when it is even smaller. And let me open it on in a new this thing so that guys can see it properly. uh, Let me do this. Okay, hold on. So there's some weirdness with code sandbox. Okay, this here works. Ah, cool. So you're seeing what's happening. If you can see the numbers on the top, right? That show you the screen size and width, right? So what's happening is it's 1,000, more than 1,000 right now. And as soon as we go below 750, our 750 rule starts applying. Okay, and it becomes red. As soon as we go below 450, below 450 condition starts applying, and it becomes green. And you see that the size is also changing. Why is the size changing? Because of the awesome workflow that we've used. Because we are saying that the font size now becomes 50%. What is 50%? Actually 50% of 16 pixels, that is 8 pixels, right? And for 37.5%, that's actually 37.5% of 16 pixel, right? So that's how the calculation now starts happening, and that's how you easily, with just a couple of lines of code, and if you use RAMs everywhere, this workflow, you can get a responsive website, like immediately, right? uh, but again, I'll give you a caution. This is good when you use basic projects. When you actually use a lot of third party libraries, these RAMs workflows start coinciding. I've seen a lot of tooltips, they also use RAMs, and when you use this 62.5%, your tooltips will become very small. Toast and tooltips will become very small, and I have seen a lot of problems in production due to this workflow, right? So normally, if you're actually using this in production, I would not actually tell you to use 62.5%. Actually, you could always, basically don't. What if you don't do that? You will have to do the calculation everywhere, right? So basically you cannot give it 24 pixel. You want to give the value in rem, so that it corresponds to any change in the font size, right? So what can you do? You can simply use a calc. Calc is a function in CSS, very powerful, very very powerful, and it's actually very widely used. You should definitely know it. Whenever you use different units, calc is exceptionally powerful, right? So this 24 pixel, not 24 pixel, basically you can just say 24 by 16 rem, right? So CSS will do the calculation for you, and it will do the calculation. It'll do the calculation, so you don't have to correspond to. Now with this way, you can control it using these media queries also, right? You're not affecting user preferences also, and you are actually, if you use any third party libraries and things like that also, then also you're not actually doing any harm, right? So I just wanted to take this 6-7 minutes to talk about this, because a lot of people talk about this 62.5 workflow, and a lot of people talk about RAMs being responsive and accessible by default. That's not true. This is what it is. You need to understand the definition of RAM, and then you need to understand how these things work. You can actually go back, play around with this, and see how it works. Okay. Srihari, you've raised your hand. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Like when you said in the first one, we're setting the HTML font size as 62.5%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then when we set a font size as 4.8 RAM, or when the H1 or paragraph as 2.4 RAM, that is, so how does that work? That font size is calculated from the HTML font size that we're setting, or like?
Right. So basically, calculation of these units depend upon a lot of things. If the property is inherited, it depends upon if the property is inherited or not, and how each property does the calculation. We will not go into those details. We'll talk about the font size. Font size is something that is inherited, right? So whenever you're saying, let's say font size, and let's say I say font size is equal to, or actually for the matter any value, right? We just understood that rems will always correspond to the root font size. So root, what is the root font size? So here HTML is the root element, so root font size is 62.5%, right?
Yeah.
So what is the computed? I always said that rem is based on the computed font size. So what is the computed font size of the root? So based on 62.5%, the computed font size will be 10 pixel.
10
So any
pixels.
value here will become 2.4 into that 10, right? So that becomes 24 pixels, right? So the final calculation, everything finally needs to be calculated in terms of pixels. So when the browser will start calculating this value, what it will do, 2.4 RAM. What does it mean? 2.4 times root font size. What is the root font size here? Root font size is, what is the computed root font size? The computed root font size is 62.5% of 16. 62.5% of 16 is 10. So the computed root font size is 10 pixels. So here it becomes 2.4 into 10, which is 24 pixel, which is the computed basically padding here, right?
So last line. So we are setting the entire HTML root as 10 pixels. Then wherever we use rem in whatever, whether it is section H1 or P, it will be 24 into
Everywhere,
10.
anything you'll use font size, you will use length, margin, pixel, anywhere where you're using the number where you used to give pixel. If you're giving rems, it will do that calculation with the root font size, nowhere else, no parent, nothing, only root font size.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. So this was it. Go ahead, try it out, right? Once you guys try it out, then you'll know it. I'll move on very quickly because we have a lot of things to cover. Okay, so basically don't worry, go back and try and play around with this, and you have any questions, come back and ask me on the group. Okay, I'm not going anywhere. Okay, but right now, for us to, in the interest of time, let's move ahead. Okay, if you have any questions, just keep it with you, go back, try it out yourself, and if you feel problems, come back and ask me. I'll give you the answers. Okay, what about colors? Okay, so let's quickly, I'll very quickly go ahead and talk about colors. I'm sure most of you know how you add colors. How do you add colors on a website? How many of you use hex? Raise hands. Just, I'm not asking anything, just how many of you used hex using colors? If you could give colors, raise hands. Yeah, only two people, three people, four people use hex. Okay, thank you. How many have you used RGB when you're using giving color values? Raise hands. Okay, so I see same people raising hands. So I think you've already used it. Okay, how many have you used HSL? Anyone has used HSL? Okay, there are two people who have used HSL also. Great. Thank you. So we'll quickly talk about it. I don't want to, spend a lot of time. We'll just in 2 minutes finish this off. Okay. So basically, there are named colors. Okay, there are 140 named colors. Okay, white, red, black, blue, blah blah blah. So one is background color. If you need to set background color of something, you do it using background color. If you have to set the text color of something, you just say color. Okay, and that becomes the text color. Okay, now first thing, how you can give colors is named colors. So there are 140 named colors: lime, magenta, white, black, dark brown, dark green, and stuff like that. You could use that. Normally you don't use them in production, of course, because you need more than 140 colors. You use it for quick prototyping, or when you use up, when you need the placeholders, things like that. That's when you use these named colors. Then next is hex. Okay, before hex, let me talk about RGB. What is RGB? RGB is red, green, blue. Okay, so using this red, green, blue values from 0 to 255. So 0 to 255 is the channel that is defined. Basically 265. So using these channels of red, green, and blue, you can actually create 16 million colors. Okay, and that's how you give. So basically, when you say RGB, 255. So let me actually show you this so that you guys can understand RGB very quickly. Background color, I will say RGB, and I will say 000, okay, which is black. If I say 255, 255, 255, what does it become? It becomes white. Okay, because the maximum red, maximum green, maximum blue, if you take them, you mix them, that becomes white. If you don't take any color and mix them, it becomes black. As simple as that. Try to build that intuition, try to build that mental model. Okay, now if you just give all the red value and no green, no blue, what happens? Of course, you get only red, right? If you give red, you give all green. That's how that as simple as that, right? That's how you define these colors, and you actually get 16 million colors. What can be interesting for you is this. Uh, Basically, dev tools are very very powerful. If you are a front end developer, if you want to be a front end developer, you must Oh, what happened? Hold on, something wrong happened. My my dev tools open somewhere else. Yeah. Okay. So what you can see here quickly, wherever you've defined these colors, right? Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, wherever you've defined these colors, right? You can just click on this and you can see this RGB value is this, right? And you can also click on this and see named values line. Okay, you can actually see the HSL value also. You can see the hex value also here, right? So you could just change it. So if you have hex and you want to see the RGB value, you can actually just click here and click RGB and see what's the RGB value, right? Very powerful. Okay, similarly, if you see color, so let me see this quickly. This color, right, we've given is the RGB value. I click on this and I can check out the hex value also, right? Cool. What else in terms of colors? So named colors RGB we've talked about. RGB is basically your red, green, and blue value. Okay. Then you can set opacity also, right? Opacity is basically the transparency. Okay. So to quickly show you the transparency, that's what I had done. So background color, let me remove and let me add some sort of image behind that so that I can show you this. And see RGB, if you say RGBA, right? RGBA 100, 255, 0 and 0.8. 0.8 is the alpha value, is the opacity. Basically, I want a zero point 0.8 transparency. You see, it's a little transparent. You can see the grasses from behind. Let me make it more transparent. It's, no, it's so transparent that you can't see it on the green. Let me first change the color so that you can visualize it a little better. Let me make it red. Yeah, you see it's changing transparency as I'm changing the colors. Okay, if I make it 1, it's completely opaque. If I make it 0, it's completely transparent. If I put it in the middle way, it's half transparent, right? In hex also you can give the transparency value. A lot of people don't know this. Hex is 6, but after that you can also give couple of values which are actually tell the transparency value. So 00 is completely transparent, and then you can, I think, give 1 which is completely opaque. I'm not sure about what exact values are there. Yeah. So hex are hex values. Okay. So whatever this computation will be there, that's your alpha value, right? Now, I wanted to pass through these very quickly so that I can discuss HSL, because HSL is the one that's most, something that, a lot of people don't know, and it's actually pretty powerful. Okay, so what do you mean by HSL, right? So HSL is actually your hue, saturation, and the last part is your lightness. Yeah, I was forgetting this. So how do you give that value? Okay, so this value, let us give the value in terms of HSL. So background value I've given in terms of HSL. So the first value is degree. I'll tell you what degree it is. So the hue, hue is represented on a 360-degree, circle. So 0 pixel starts with red, and as you start changing the color, it starts changing, right? So from the second one is the saturation. So first one is how much of the hue that you want to take. Second is how much. So first is which pigment that you want to take: red, green, blue. H value defines that, right, in that 360-degree wheel, right? The second value is the saturation. That depends what is the amount of that pigment that you want to take. Okay, if you take less yellow, it will be lighter. If you take more yellow, it will be more, right, more brighter and vibrant. And the last value is the lightness. Okay, lightness value is again in terms of percentage. It actually tells how much light that value is. So if you, the lightness value is 100%, that'll give you very vibrant colors, and as you decrease the lightness, it will start giving you dull colors, right? Now, why I'm telling you this is very powerful, and why this is interesting, we'll go through stuff and then we'll come to know around this. So let's just hold on for this right now. Just understand how this, what is the HSL value and how do you give the HSL value. Okay, there are more types of these color types. So right now we've learned about RGB, HSL, hex. There are actually display P3 and LCH. I think these are quite new, out of scope. But actually, you know what each one of these modern types do? They'll give you more colors, right? So HSL gives you more colors than RGB actually. So you have a wider palette, so you can use more colors in your app. Okay, and that is the main difference. How it's powerful and how you use it in CSS, I'll show you. Okay, uh, now very quickly, what I wanted to tell you is any color discussion in modern layout is not complete without talking about gradients. How many of you know gradients? You've seen gradients at least. What's a gradient? Can someone tell me very quickly? Yes, Shidsendu. Yes, tell me. Shidsendu? Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Uh, Gradients are the color changing from one particular color to another particular color. I guess that's
Yeah, basically
gradient.
gradient is actually a transition. When you see multiple shades of colors, that's created by gradients in CSS. Okay, so let me actually create a quick gradient to show you. So let me give the background. And you know what gradient actually, so there is a function, there are multiple function: linear gradient, radial gradient, canonical gradient, and all that. In CSS you can create multiple different kinds of gradients using these functions, and it actually creates kind of like an image representation. Okay, a lot of people give background color equal to gradient, and that doesn't work, it won't work. So you have to give background equal to gradient, and that's where it will work. So very quickly, let me add a value. So let me say 0 red to blue. Okay, so basically the first one is the degree. What degree do you want? By default is up to down. From red, sorry, bottom to up. From red we're going to blue. Okay, that's the calculation that's happening. Okay, and what, let's say if I give 90, actually you need to give degree, right? So 90, you see the transition from red to blue is happening. Let me change the color, yellow 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 to blue. You see what is this happening? Now I will quickly give you some values to ponder about. RGB 255 0, from red. RGB 0, 255, comma this. Okay, so red and green in RGB. You see there is a difference. There's a dull gray in this. Immediately when you change this around with HSL, you get different results. Okay, so let me do something very quickly. Let me give it an HSL value, and I don't want to use opacity for now. So what I'll do, I will remove this. uh, yes, and what I will do is I will remove this guy also and give the values in HSL. Okay, comment this out, and because it's the same color, hold on. So 90-degree HSL. Okay, this was not there. Let me add this quickly. And now you have a couple of HSLs. Okay, so you need one more bracket to be closed here. Okay, so red to red. Now I want to change this to green. So what is the HSL for green? Quickly. Let me find this. So let me change this to. Oh, this is already HSL, right? So let me find. Just put a green right now, and let me use this 0 150. Okay, so let me close this and use a 0 100. No. Uh, what's the green value for HSL? It's hard to figure out from this. Oh, okay, I can do it from here. That's not helpful. So, what I can do is background color, and I can say green, and I will go back quickly and get the HSL value for this here, and go back and put it. Hmm. Cool. So now what I want you to do is actually give the values of these linear gradients in RGB and HSL and actually find the difference. When you when you try this out, you'll see the difference of what the gradient creates, right? And I'm just stopping the discussion here. I want you guys to try it out first, and then maybe let's come back on chat or in the next class and discuss this, because this is very interesting, and only once you try it out you'll figure it out. So basically give it in both RGB and HSL values and actually see the difference. Try to see what the difference is there. Okay. Basically this is how you create gradients. There are other functions also like radial gradients and all. You can go back and learn about it. Only there is no magic. Only way you'll be able to do this is basically playing around. Go back and start playing around with this. Give different values and see what's happening. Check in the console what's happening, and that's how you'll understand this. Okay, I will again quickly move ahead. So after colors, we want to talk about typography very quickly. So okay, so what is typography, right? So typography is basically how. So you've heard it, seen it most places, right? That web is nothing without text. If you don't have text, there is no. You don't have only images. Web is 80% of text, and everything else is images, right? So typography that then becomes very important. So now it's important for you to learn how to add a font family. There are different fonts. There are sans, Google sans, and Roboto, and so many different and thousands of fonts, right? So how do you give your custom font, right? So there are certain fonts that are predefined in web by each browser, serif, Arial, and stuff like that. But you could add your custom fonts also. We will see in our example how do we add custom fonts, right? And then there are so many other properties, text decoration, line items, stuff like that. Actually I wanted to talk a bit of them here, but for the interest of time, I'll not talk a lot about these texts right now. We'll actually just quickly now jump into so these CSS properties and all also, right? We're gonna do that live example and see how we style this, and we're going to talk about these properties there itself very quickly. Okay. I'll just try and focus and be with me while I change the values. Okay, while I add the values, please keep your questions with you. Once we are done with the styles, I'll give you time for you to ask questions. Okay, maybe we'll not complete the entire design today if we run out of time, but I'll certainly keep some time for questions. Okay, so let's actually now go over and quickly try and style. I'll close all this because we're not concerned about this. We've seen all this. We've seen all this. Okay, right. So where is this? Yeah, this is what we have, the template. This is what you're gonna get, right? And what I have basically done is I have created one style which I actually envisioned and created this by adding the styles. Okay, this is what we are going to do. And now you will actually, once we are done with this, you will actually take all this learning and use your creativity to come up with the style of this page. Okay, so let's now quickly try and add some styles, and while we add that, we'll see what are the things that we are doing. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to see this. What, let me actually take a fresh fork which I will style. Let me close this, let me close this. Okay, so this is the fresh fork that I have, which where we'll add the styles. Let's add this index.html. Let's see the CSS file. It's just the blank template right now. We'll open it in the new page, and or maybe we can right now keep it there itself so that we can see the changes that we make very quickly. Okay, so let's actually get started, and give me just one more minute to set myself up very quickly. Cool. Okay, all right. So what are we gonna do is now first start writing, yes, start writing code here and see what things change, how things change. So first thing is I'm going to change the font size, font family, right? So I'll quickly tell you what do we do. So I need some custom font. Okay, so what I did, I went to Google Fonts. Basically, you can go to Google Fonts. You can use any, by the way, but this is the easiest. So I came here, and you choose the font, the custom fonts that you want. Let's say you want to use this Poppins font, okay, and you want to use this. So this now will give you a link of the font where it will hosted. You just pick this link, you go back to the styles, and you go back to index.html, and inside your head, like you added the style link, you just add this fonts too, right? But just adding this won't make any changes, right? You need to add styles for this. So what will we do is, once we have added, one second, once we have added it, we are going to, so I've added 3 fonts here. What I want to do is, to all my body, I want to give a Roboto font. Okay, so I'll go here, and in the body here I'll say font family equal to Roboto mono, comma sans serif. Okay, now did my Roboto mono load? Yeah, now it loaded. So basically, you see now the font everywhere is the Roboto mono, right? When you could just say Roboto mono, you could. And what is this sans serif? Sans serif is the preloaded font that I was talking about. Font family, you can give just one value. When you're giving custom value, it's good to put it under quotes. If you have multiple words, you have to put it in the quotes. If you just have one word, you can you if you don't put code, that also works, but mostly you should put codes, right? You When you give multiple values, it's the stack of font families. What does this mean? That let's say Roboto mono didn't load up, it'll use the sans serif font, right, which is the pre-installed font. So it's always good when you give a custom font to uh, also add a fallback font, right? So we've added the font family, and already we can see it starts looking a little better. Okay, what is the next thing that I want to do? Next thing is, I want to set up some colors. Okay, so whenever I want to set up some colors, I want to set up the colors in my I want to do it in the root, so that I can quickly, basically I want to create variables which I can use everywhere, so that I can actually, so basically you would use one primary color at one background color at most of your places, right? So what do? You should define those colors as variables. CSS allows you to specify variables, and when you do that by specifying variables, what you can do, you can play around. Whenever you have to change the color, you can just go ahead and change your root, and you don't have to worry about other things, right? I will again quickly put in some stuff so that you know what I'm doing. So in the root, this is how you define your variable. So I'm saying that primary text color variable that I've defined, this is FFF. This basically the white. This is basically white. So I'm saying the text color is white, and the primary color I'm using some HSL value which is yellow. Don't worry about how did you come up with this 42.35. I did some playing around, and that's the color I wanted. Okay. Now I'll show you an interesting part here, very quickly, uh, and the power of HSL. So basically, I want to define some background color, and I want to define my background color in terms of HSL. Okay, so I have defined the hue saturation value also as a variable. Okay, so the background color variable now is HSL, and you have this. And how do you get the value? You say var, and inside bracket you give the variable value, and that this will get replaced by this value. Okay, so then I've set my HSL value here. Now why am I doing all this is to actually gain something very interesting. So what I can do is I can actually use this power to get the darker and lighter shade of my values. Okay, so I can just use calc here, and in calc I'm saying that use the background lightness and minus 5%. You could say 50%, 10% based on your how much lightness you want to reduce, and that actually gives you a light version of that. We'll just see that in practice. Let me just quickly add one more color, and then we will see how we are using this. Okay, I've just added these colors right now, and let's go ahead and start using these colors. Okay, so now first thing we do is set up the background. Okay, so in the HTML, if I set the background color to, let's say, black, right? Everything becomes black. Okay, so we don't want that. We want to use our background color that we have defined. So this is our background color, this guy, and we get the HSL value which we have done. And we need the text color value also. We've not yet defined the text color. Have we defined the text color yet? Yeah, we have defined the text color. So let me also use the text color here, because for that background we need a lighter color for text. We can't use black because black is not visible there. The contrast is not good. Okay, so now we have used the color. Now you see, okay, I don't want this. Now we actually just added this for differentiating. Don't worry about this nth child and selectors and all that you see. We are going to discuss selectors and combinators and a lot of exciting thing in the third class. Okay, that will actually solidify your value even further. But right now, just hold on for now. And what we do is we will remove that, so that we don't want that different sections. Yeah, so we see everything is now white, and it's slowly taking shape here, right? So we are all already at time. I think I'll take 10 to 12 more minutes. Hope folks are fine with that. Okay, uh, basically if you have something urgent, just feel free to leave, don't worry about it. Okay, but I'll actually, if you folks have time, I'll definitely want you to be in the class and see. We're going to talk about some more interesting stuff here very quickly. Okay, so now I've given the background color and primary color here. All that is done. Okay, so now I have given everything as roboto mono. But what I want, I have headings here in my HTML, and I want all my headings to be of the font family Josephine Sans. I added Josephine Sans for heading. So what I'll do is I'll quickly add that. So all my headings H1, H2, H3, H4 will have a font family of Josephine Sans. Okay. So now you see for headings everywhere, the font family has changed to Josephine Sans. and now it starts looking different. So normally, why have changes? Normally you would use two combination of font family mostly. Okay, this is a lot of UX. This is not actually development, but normally in a website, you see headings of a certain decorative style, right? And the body where you're reading chunks of text will always be of a simple readable font family. Okay, so this is what I did. Then there is something called line height. Does anyone know what is a line height? Can quickly tell me? Who can raise hands and tell me what's line height? Anyone used? Yes, Zabiullah. Tell me what's a line height.
It is the gap between two
Exactly.
lines
Right. So
of code,
basic. Yes. Two lines of
two
text.
lines of the text element basis.
Right. So basically, you have this p, right? So this normally by default the value of line height is 1.15 mostly with most browsers, and accessibility guidelines say that wherever you have chunk of text, the line height, this distance should at least be 1.5. Okay, and this is a relative number. When you say 1.5, it's actually that value is, one is the default height, and when you say 1.5, it's 1.5 of that default value. So for all p's, I said the line height will be 1.5. You saw that this distance increased. So let me just show you the difference. See, it's padded now, and as soon as I remove this, it becomes better, right? So this is also something that I'll add. Line height, very powerful, very widely used property. Okay, now let's start going. Now next thing that I want to do is, you see in what we had here, right? We had this background, very exciting. So let's add this background, and then we have this also. So let's style this header now. Okay, quickly. So let's go back to our code. Yeah, this is our code. Let's, and again, for the interest of time, I'll just quickly paste in some code and then explain you what I've done. Okay, so we have added some things for the header, and I hope my asset is there. Okay, my asset is not there. Hopefully I can quickly put that. Hero, 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 hero. Uh, which was that image? Okay, I don't see the image. Oh, you see Tane's image. Okay, let me quickly download it from here, and then we can put it. So, hero image. I don't know if I have option of downloading this here. I have save image option. Okay, I can put it as hero, and I can put it under, let's say, desktop. No, let me put it in the downloads itself. Okay, now let me go back and see if I can upload this. Downloads, hero. Okay, it became a JPEG, so I'll have to change this here quickly. Oh, you have exceeded the maximum storage. Wow. Weird problems at weird times. Okay, so I will not add that. I'll just explain you quickly. So there's some storage issue I might have added, created multiple copies where I have a lot of files like this assets. So it's not allowing me. But basically, this code works. Okay. So what is happening here? Okay. So let me just remove this URL for now. Okay. If you just remove this URL, I'll actually show you here what is happening. That's actually easier for me to show you. So this is the header, and this is our hero. And what have we done is, see, you added a background image, and the background image first has a linear gradient, and below it has a URL. So if we just actually don't give the image, sorry, not don't give the gradient and just give the URL, you see what happens. So header, hero. Okay, so let me copy this source, and what I'm trying to do is just say that the background is this URL, the image inside this URL. Okay, and there's no gradient. Okay, so this is the original image actually. This is the original image that I've given, and this actually shows you some shape. So what you normally do, why I have added a gradient on top of this image, is you can use any image and you can give it a tinge of what colors that you're using currently in your page, right? And that's why you see that I've used a linear gradient. And if I remove this guy, right, and actually if you just remove the URL as you see in this, you see that there is, from right top to right bottom, there is a linear gradient. So basically you want to give that tinge on top of your background here, so that it actually just blends it into your overall style, right? Because directly that image is not blending into. Okay, then there is a background size property. Again, this is a very powerful property by default. So basically there are different values for this. You should just go back, play around these values and see what's happening. Okay, how backgrounds work. So their background size, cover means you cover the entire container which you're giving the background for, with that background image, right? So here, essentially what we have done, we had a lean. So you could actually have multiple URLs also, and it will just keep transposing on top of itself, right? But if you have multiple URLs, you'll only see the first one on top, right? Because it's not opaque, because it's opaque, right? But with linear gradient, because it has that transparency on it, actually you'll have to give that transparency. When you give that transparency to it, what starts happening is you can see behind that also, right? That tinge, that gradient tinge, and behind that there is your image, right? uh, then position relative, don't worry about this. Once we discuss about layout, you'll learn about it. Now, very exciting thing. So basically, okay, sorry, I was at the other position. So this was background size covered. This was what I was talking about. And now very exciting is this clip path thing, right? So this is also something very powerful. When you say clip path, you can just go back and read about it. Clip path, you can actually say polygon, eclipse, circle. You can use any sort of that function, and each of these functions have different definitions. Okay, you can just say clip path equal to path, and you can give a path. You can draw your own path. There are tools also where you can actually uh, generate these clip path, and these are actually very powerful. So if I don't give this clip path, what happens? You'll not get this. Okay, so what clip path does is any element, if you say circle and you give that circle, basically it's clipped around that circle. That particular circle will be clipped out, right? That's clip part. Similarly, if I'm saying a polygon, so when I'm saying a polygon and when I'm giving the path to that polygon, basically that area is going to get clipped out from that, and that actually gives us this nice little effect, which is just gives us that a look that we want to create here. If I go back and see here, you see this slanted look that's getting created here. That's what is done by clip path. Okay, and again, I'm not going to go into details of how this is just simple definition. You just play around these values, and and I have actually used multiple units here, percentages, VH also, so that to just tell you that you can use multiple units inside that. Okay, it's not necessary to use multiple units, but you could use multiple units, right? So just play around with these properties, and that's how you will come to know that how you can utilize this. Okay, uh, let me actually go over a couple of. Actually, I want to talk about box shadow and border radius very quickly. So let me do that. Also, I for my the name card, I had added one more font family. This Carl guy, the name actually I have used a different font family. So if I go back and change my call here, span class call, and close this and put a span here. So you see the font changed. So this is what I wanted to use for this, and this is what I have. Let me talk about border radius quickly and how I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to style this anchor tag. Okay, here. Let us quickly find that, and let me put that so that give me 1 second. Yeah. Okay. Actually, just let me show you here. That's actually I'll again, for the interest of time, I'll quickly show you the stuff here so that we don't take a lot of time. Text transform capitalize one property. You can use this to capitalize to lowercase if you want to have everything in lowercase, put it there. If you want everything in uppercase, you use this, right? Why now? Can someone answer me if you can just put the HTML itself in capital, right? Why do you want this property? Why do you want to use this property? When would you use this property? Anyone here? Uh, why would you want to use the text transform property? Okay, so basically, we work with a lot of dynamic text, right? The text could be coming from back and could be coming from anywhere, right? And you don't want to maybe change the case of the original text, right? So that's why CSS has this property where you can actually change the case of this. Now border radius. So basically, if you don't give the border radius, this becomes a simple box. Uh, okay, so because there are two properties coming here, yeah. So without a border radius, it's just directly a box without any borders. And you give for when you give four values, it is basically top, left, bottom, right borders, right? To get this kind of effect, so basically what I've done is I have said that the top will be 12 and everything else is 50 pixels, right? So that's how I just created this modern kind of look of a button. Okay, very quickly now, what is this? Another interesting thing, how do you see this dashed line here? I'll also quickly show you that. How did we create this dashed line, right? So that you can use border. So you can use a border property. So border, you can first is the length, 1 pixel, 10 pixel, let's say 10 pixels is the border length. What is style? By default it's solid, and then by default it's the current color. So current color is also a CSS property which takes the current color which you specify, the text color. So if the current color is blue, current color becomes blue, right? So basically what I'm saying is if the color is blue, current color becomes blue. If the color is red, current color becomes red. So this is very interesting, right? You could use the current color, and your color could be anything. And if you want the same border, you can use the current color a keyword, right? So this is how you do create your border. And here you could also change the style. So by default it's solid, but you could actually change the border styles to have dash, dotted, groove, so many different kinds of border. So again, play around this with these properties, and that's how you learn, you know. One thing very quickly, the last thing that I'll quickly want to show is box shadow. Again, box shadows are very interesting, and you would see that a lot, right? So what is the box shadow that we have? So box shadow is basically X offset, basically how much you need to offset from the X. Y offset, how much do you want to offset from the Y. Then there is a blur value, how much blurriness should that shadow have. Then there is a spread value. How much should this shadow spread? If you give a large value, it will spread for longer. Then there is a color which you can give here. And actually there is also one another thing that you can add. You can say inset. Inset means inside. That's again optional, right? So you see, when I said inside, the shadow goes inside. It looks like it's pressed. And when you remove this, the shadow is outside. It looks like it's elevated. So basically, to change the elevation, you use box shadow. Normally in web, in production, you would these one box shadow values won't give you a very real like experience or behavior. So you actually layer, you give different box shadow values to actually get a very intuitive or nice looking shadow. Cool. This is actually, I've created this with after and before. I actually, the main thing that I wanted to show was the calc function that I used here. Because what's happening, these lines of text, this could be one line, this could be multiple lines, right? And this line should actually grow based on this. So we've used calc to do that calculation, right? And there's actually, that's where it's very interesting. Yeah, I think there's nothing new other than that. Other than that, mostly this basic stuff. I would have liked to actually done the entire thing in front of you guys, but we actually lost or fell really short of time. I see for 8 9 folks dropped too, but I still hope that you guys found this class useful. Even if you have you knew a lot of this, there was something new for you that actually you learned. Okay. uh, I actually was planning to not share my styled code with you guys, because I then felt that you will just change the values in the assignment. I actually wanted you to be creative first, and try out values and see how you can change stuff, and try it out yourself. Give shadows to button, don't give shadows to where I have given shadows, and things like that, and see how change different colors. Oh, basically, I told you, right? We what we did here, we actually used these colors, right? And now you could actually play out with these colors, and you can change these colors to actually get your results. So if I let me show you in this guy itself again. So inspect this, and you would see that the root would have this color that I have defined, right? So let me change this yellow color to a red color, pinkish red. See, now I didn't have to do anything. Everything changed automatically. I can change my background to white or grayish color, and I can change this CTA color to something else to get a light theme website. This is the power of these custom properties and these variables that you define here, and that's why it's always good to use these. I can play around. I can use different colors to see what works best for me, right? You could play around, you could use HSL different type of colors, and play around with this. Awesome. So this is your assignment. Where did it go? Of course, we'll share that template with you. I don't have it right now, but will share this template with you. You uh, if you have any doubts, of what you didn't understand, if you have any doubts which we didn't cover in the class but you normally have with some of these properties, any CSS property, come back, ask me on the chat, ask me on WhatsApp, actually ask me anywhere, and I'll answer you. So now I'm very interested to see all the results, and hope you guys work on it. Start early. I would say that a lot of us actually wait for the deadline and do it near the deadline, but I'll say start early. Share it on social media, get feedback from people. In the end, it's not you who perceive it, it's the people who will see it and perceive, and they should say what's good and what's bad, right? Share it and ask people, share it with your friends. If you don't want to share on social media, just share it with your links with your friend, ask them how is it looking, and things like that. You can share it in the WhatsApp chat, ask with the peers, ask me how is it looking. Always feel free to come back. I could just take 1 hour and talk about gradients itself in an hour, right? So there'll be a lot of things, and that's why I wanted to talk about gotchas and small nuances, right? And the things that are mostly there available on internet, right? I was not talking a lot of that in detail. So if you some of you guys felt it a little fast, just go back, start practicing, start seeing the things, start playing around, start changing the values in a debugger console, and come back if you have questions. Okay. We'll just okay. I told that I'll keep some time for the questions. So folks, we if you again you want to drop off, please feel free to drop off. Anyone who has any question or any comment, please raise your hands. Anything? Awesome. No questions are awesome. Okay, I'm very interested to see folks and see the best three designs and see who gets the goodies. If there are no questions, we'll go back and we'll leave you and we'll have a good night. See you guys. Bye. Have a nice night.